A farmer say the other day said averages are useless because the average human has one testicle and one boob, but you very rarely see that in the wild. Hey, how's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's having a great day. Welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Cash, and today we are going to talk about reefer unload times. I know a lot of people get all crazy when you think reefer and unload times, and there is some justifiable thought in that because typically reefer freight takes longer to unload and load because we're dealing with grocery warehouses, which can be a time vampire, as I like to call them. So let's talk about what I did. I collected my data for the month of May, every time I got loaded, every time I got unloaded, and we're going to break it down, kind of talk about the data a little bit. I've done this once in the past, and I would do another one, just kind of collecting data. I like collecting data and going over it and looking at things. There's really no reason for it because I heard a farmer say the other day, said averages are useless because the average human has one testicle and one boob, but you very rarely see that in the wild. And I'm like, he's got a point. But these are the averages. We'll break it all down. We'll talk about it just for the new people, to give you some idea. It really isn't going to affect anything. I'm just going to kind of talk about it, and hopefully it helps someone out there make a decision. Now, I'll give you my breakdown on the situation right off the bat here. And that is, I think if you're going to be a company driver, get yourself a drive-in with a lot of drop and hook because you're getting paid by the mile. You need to get a lot of miles. You need consistent miles to make that money every week. Now, for me as an owner operator, I think it's better to do reefer freight as an owner operator because you don't run as hard, but you're not necessarily worried about getting a bunch of miles in. You're more worried about making money. Okay, so that's the difference for me. If I was going to go back to being a company driver, I would find me a company that just run the living hell out of a truck with a bunch of drop and hook. That way, I ain't got to be, sitting all the time because that can really hurt you in the reefer game. Is that sitting? So let's talk about it. I had 8 times I got loaded in the month of May, and I had 10 times that I got unloaded. Okay. And the one thing about that is I got a load put on at the end of May, but I didn't get it unloaded. So I didn't count that one because this is strictly calendar May. Okay. Um, and there is one dry load in here. So that might skew the numbers a little bit. I'll let you know about that one. So the breakdown of it is I had 8 times I was loaded in the month of May, and I had a total of 19 hours of sitting to be loaded. Now, I broke these down by the quarter hour. So, kind of like you would do an old school logbook. You know what I mean? Like, if, and this is from the appointment time to the paperwork in hand pulling out of the parking lot times. I don't count the show up early times. Okay. Now, in drive-in, you could probably show that and be legit because a lot of times on drive-in, you show up early, you get unloaded early. But in the reefer game, it ain't so much that. It's you show up when you were told to show up, not a minute late, and no more than 1 hour early, and we'll get you unloaded when we damn well feel like it. That's kind of the mentality you deal with doing reefer. Okay. And this video isn't to turn you off from reefer or put you on to reefer. It's just to kind of show you what goes on in the thing. It's data. Okay. But so uh, the breakdown on the getting loaded, my longest time to get loaded, the longest it took to get loaded was 7.5 hours, 7.5 hours to get loaded one time. So if you're the type of person that can't chill in a truck for 7.5 hours in a dock door, reefer not so much for you because I know this place. I go here and pick up all the time. This was pretty bad. This when I showed up, I knew I was in trouble because there was trucks parked everywhere. It was 8 pounds of poop in a 5-pound bag. It was bad, and I knew it was going to be bad. the main thing, like I tell people, if you're going to do that reefer, you know, get you some naps in, learn how to work that logbook. You know what I mean? Like, get them naps in, get them breaks in, and, get that Netflix account paid up. Get you some DoorDash brought to you if you don't keep food in the truck. Don't be sitting there all panicky and worried. Don't put yourself in that position, because this place I was at, it's like there's a Jimmy John's down the road, and the drivers who know, they know. That Jimmy John's is hitting that place like 5, 6 times an hour sometimes. I mean, it's just like, they'll be driving around looking for like 4 or 5 trucks at one time. But it was just a bad loading time there. Normally, I would say I get loaded like 4 hours there. It does take a time to load it because it's kind of a cross dock situation. We are waiting on other freight to come, you know, get delivered so they can unload it and put it straight onto another trailer and send it out. So we were just waiting on stuff. No reason to get worked up in a place like that, because let me tell you, them ladies that work there, they know they mean business. You're not going to come in there every 15 minutes and tell them, nah, you're not going to give them the business. You'll be there when they close at 8 o'clock, I promise. But also, know your surroundings. This place, once they put me in a dock door, I go in, I tell the ladies I tell the ladies in the office, I say, hey, my truck's indoor, whatever. I said, I'm gonna Uber over to Target, or I'm gonna Uber over to the grocery store or whatever. And they're like, all right, we'll call you when it's done. And I know, I'm like, I got at least an hour to 2 hours to go do my shopping. So normally, as soon as they put me in a dock door, as soon as they call me to the dock door, I go ahead and request that Uber. And I hit that dock door, and then I go get my groceries for the week or something. I try to use that time to be productive, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Sitting there worrying about it ain't going to change a thing. My quickest unload time was actually at a produce farm down in Florida. They actually loaded me early. I showed up early. I was out by my appointment time was like 11 a.m. I showed up at like 9 o'clock and I was gone by 11 a.m. So that was the best I did. On where I actually set past the appointment time, I had one where I was 1 hour past the appointment time that I got loaded. So now let's talk about the unload times. These are really the beast for me because I deal with a lot of grocery warehouses, a lot of food service, a lot of Cisco, a lot of US Foods, a lot of PFGs. Those are typically my customers on unloads. And you guys that know, it's luck of the draw. I might pull into that one PFG and be out in an hour, and I might pull into that same PFG with the same load the next week and be there for 4 hours. It's just whatever's going on. You're living in their world when you pull in that gate. So let's talk about it. I did 10 unloads for the month, 24 hours, 24.75 hours. So I rounded that up to an average of 2.5, 2.5 hours to unload at every stop, which is basically the same as the load times. I was like, I can't believe this is this close. 2.4 hours on the load time and 2.5 on the unload. It's basically the same. So let's talk about the unloads were way more consistent. Like my longest unload time was at a Walmart for 4 hours. I was there. I don't know if you guys have noticed Walmarts here lately, but I feel like Walmarts are slipping a little bit. Walmart's got really good during that thing that happened back in 2020. And man, I was like killing them Walmarts. Like 2 hours, I was out the gate. Now we're back to those 4 hour Walmart experiences. So who knows? What are we doing? 4 hours. The dry load was basically an hour and a half to load past appointment, and the dry load was an hour and a half to unload past appointment. So the dry load was very consistent at an hour and a half. So if you take my one dry load on average, and given averages, like I said, the average human being has one testicle and one tit. You don't see that often. So think of averages what you will, but um, an hour and a half. So it seems like dry loads are about an hour quicker on unloads and loads for what I got here in the month of May. So my longest unload was 4 hours at a Walmart, and the 2.5 is very consistent on the unloads. Now the average on the loads was way skewed You know, like we're talking loaded early versus 7.5 hours waiting at one place. So it seems to me like my load times were very inconsistent, and the unloads were actually kind of consistent for the month. But that's the data, guys. Very consistent on 2.4 load, 2.5 unload. That's what I came up with. That's what I'm averaging for the month of May. So if you're thinking about switching to reefer and you're doing something different, maybe think about that. Think about like, am I willing to set for 7.5 hours to get loaded? Am I willing to wait on average 2.5 hours to get loaded and unloaded past appointment times? So if you're like me, I show up an hour early. My goal is 1 hour early on every delivery. So like you take that 4 hour Walmart delivery and you know, it's pretty crazy, because that's 5 hours I'm at Walmart. That's getting long in the tooth, but I don't count that time before. That's a gimme. I do that more for my personal well being of just, hey, I'm here. I'm checked in. It's done. My part of getting here on time has been accomplished. So that's why I do that. But that's it, everybody. Thanks for watching. I hope this helps somebody out there. I thought it was interesting, so I wanted to share it with you. If you thought it was interesting and got value out of this, be sure to hit that like button for me. If you would, maybe check out a subscription to this channel. I got them for the next 30 days. I'm offering free subscriptions, so go down there and click that subscribe button free for the next 30 days. It's going to be very expensive after the 30 days. I'm just warning you. Uh, anyway, I'm always talking crap. Sorry. So, main thing to consider in this is to take care of one another out there. And remember, people are more important than trucking. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hi, real quick. I want to talk to you about MyTee products, spelled MYTEE. Check out the website for trucking supplies and trucker gear. They got all kind of stuff. They really focus on open deck stuff, but they have stuff for any kind of trucking. I promise you, go check out the website. Lots of chains, straps, toolboxes. Everybody needs toolboxes, things like that, especially for flatbed and car haulers. Check it out. I promise you, you'll like it. Use the link down below.